Hi everyone! Today I wanted to do a review for my sewing students and also I guess for anybody who's just learning how to sew and wants to learn how to thread their machines. I'm going to do a little tutorial on how to thread your machines, including how to wind your bobbin, and that way you know how to work your machine. So to start with, we have our top thread and we have a bobbin, which is our bottom thread. So your top thread and your bobbin thread work together to create your stitches. So you are going to need thread on both. So we're going to talk about the bobbin thread first, because before we can start sewing we need to wind a bobbin. This is what a bobbin looks like. It's just, sometimes they're metal. Most of them nowadays, usually that I see, that I work with my students, are plastic. So this is your bobbin. So we need to get thread onto our bobbin. So I'm going to put my top thread on this spool. Most machines have two, one standing upright and one on the side. The side one works better when winding a bobbin. If you can come up over here, you can see on the top of your machine there are thread guides. Every machine has it. Each one is slightly different, but your bobbin thread is going to have different lines than your top thread. So your bobbin thread, it's going to show you like dotted lines and then when you're going to go thread your top thread, you see it's a solid line. If you come over and look at this machine, whoops, you can see it also has the lines to show you how you're going to wind your thread. These dotted lines are for the bobbin, and this solid line is for the top thread. I'm just going to show you this really quick because a lot of them do have like that loop-de-loo. So my machine over here doesn't, but this one does. So just to show you, to wind your bobbin thread, when it shows like this loop-de-loo, it's like a figure 8. So you're going around this part right here, just like in the picture, and it shows that it's going around the front, and then it's wrapping around that way, and it's coming over here to our bobbin winder. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because my machine, like I said, doesn't have that figure 8, and most machines that I've worked with my students do, and so I didn't want you to be confused. So it goes in the front and then around that way, and then it comes over. This is called your bobbin winder. I'm going to come back over here to my machine though. So here's mine. Mine just goes around this top tension part right here. You want to make sure that it's catching like in that groove. And then you're just following the dotted lines. The dotted lines are showing, I'm going to move that out of the way, that it's going over here to our bobbin winder. This is called your bobbin winder, so you're going to be placing your bobbin on here to wind your thread on there. Now to wind your thread, you're going to take your thread and you want to go up through the middle. You do not want to go through the bottom or down through the top. You want to go through the middle part of this bobbin. You want to take it up through one of those holes on your bobbin, okay? And then pull your thread tight, place it on your bobbin winder, and slip it over. On my machine, you have to pull the knob out. I've only seen it that way on a Kenmore, so most machines you don't have to worry about that. But on mine, that's how it goes. But yeah, just flip it over, and that signals your machine that you're going to be winding your bobbin. So you press down on your pedal, and at a medium speed, once I get some on, I usually just come in here and like trim that so it's out of the way. And just at a medium speed, you're going to continue to wind your bobbin. You can see how it's going up and down, so it's evenly distributing the thread throughout your bobbin. And you don't want to go too fast, but you're just going to keep that going until it reaches this. Once your thread touches this part right here, sometimes it'll actually just stop threading altogether. And so that's how you know that you have enough thread. So it's touching there. We have a good amount of thread on there. You definitely don't ever want to go to where your thread is out past your bobbin, because then it's not going to fit in your bobbin case. So that is step 1 of your bobbin. Make sure you flip that back over when you're done, and you can take your bobbin off. And let's just set that aside for a minute, because now I'm going to show you your top thread. to thread your top thread, you're going to follow your next set of instructions. So that dotted line was for our bobbin. Now we're going to follow the solid line. So it's showing that I'm going to go through here, and then you can see how it's numbered. Number 1 is pointing to go down, and then you see that little, I think it looks like a U-turn, so that's what I always call it. The little U-turn, you go around there. You want to make sure that this lever is in the top position. So you can do that by rolling your wheel towards you. Pull it to the top position, and then you can see number 3 here says to wrap it around. You want to make sure that it gets in through this hole right here, okay? And then you're going to continue to pull it down. See number 4? Now there's this little groove right here. This is the thing people tend to forget the most, but you just want to take that and go behind here. You want your thread to be behind this little groove right here, because that's going to hold that thread close to your needle. It always helps to maybe just give it a trim. That way you can thread it through your needle very easily. I like to keep my finger here as I'm pulling it through so that the thread does not get twisted around the needle, because what happens sometimes if you pull it, it'll get wrapped around your needle, and then it creates knots and it'll break your needle when you're sewing. So I always just keep my finger in there just so the thread can't wrap around the needle. My finger's there to stop it. Then see this little groove here on your presser foot? This is called a presser foot for those who don't know. You're going to pull that thread through your presser foot and then pull it back to the left corner of your machine. Now I'm going to thread the bobbin. There are 2 different kinds of bobbins. There's a drop down bobbin and there's a pull up bobbin. I have a machine that has each of them, so I'm going to show you both of them. So the first is the drop down bobbin, since we're at this machine. You want your thread, sometimes there will be lines that will show you what to do. This machine doesn't have lines, but the newer machines, especially like the Brothers, which a lot of people are sewing on, it has lines to follow and it kind of shows you. But you want your thread to be coming from this direction, so like coming around towards the left, okay? You're going to set it down into your bobbin holder, and then you want it to go through the groove. You want it to go through the groove. Some machines have it like wrap back around in a groove that's like right here, and then it cuts off. If you have that machine, you know what I'm talking about. But the most important part is you want it to go through this groove right here, because if it doesn't go through there, then you're not creating any tension and you're going to have all kinds of problems threading. And so that is it for the drop down bobbin. That is super easy, and now your machine is ready to go. So now we have a machine with the pull-up bobbin, which is, it's in the front like this, and you have a bobbin case. Okay, so once you have your bobbin, this time you want to make sure that your thread is going towards the right. It's like coming around, going towards the right. Okay, because when you put it in your bobbin case, you can see that there's a groove going right here, and it's like pointing that way. You do not want your thread to just naturally be going that way and fall into it. You have to create tension. So your thread needs to be going the opposite way. So it's coming back up around this way, and it's pointing to the right. You drop it down into your case, and then you're going to pull that thread through that groove, and you might feel or hear a little click as it clicks into here. Okay, now that's a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim it. Now we're going to take this bobbin, and you can see under here that the nose of the bobbin fits into this, into that groove right there. So we're going to put the hole in through here and just push it in. You'll hear it click. And then once your top thread is threaded, you're going to pull your top thread tight, okay? And then you're going to you turn your wheel towards you, and you only need to go down one time, and it's going to catch that bobbin. If it doesn't come up right away, you have to just give a little tug on your top thread. And then if you can't grab that thread, then just take a pin or something and pull it through. And now both of your threads are through, and you're going to pull it towards the back. Now you're ready to sew. You put your fabric through here. Make sure your threads are always towards the back. You want to keep them long. If they're cut too close, to your presser foot, then it's going to come unthreaded. So make sure you always keep your threads long and pulled towards the back. And now we're ready to sew. Now I did want to show you what a good stitch will look like. To start with, you have your length, which determines how long or how short your stitches are, and then your width determines how wide it is. So if you're doing a zigzag stitch, you're going to adjust your width to make it either wider or more narrow. If you want a long stitch, then you'll increase your length. If you want it to be a short length, then you'll move it down. But otherwise, normally you're going to keep your length between 2 and 3. So you have your length, your width, and then the guy that's really, really important here is your tension. Most machines will have like the numbers with the boxes around them. That's kind of your average tension. The tension determines how tight the threads are, how loose or how tight. Sometimes you may need to tighten up your tension if the threads look too loose. If the threads look too tight, you'll need to loosen them up. So what I wanted to show you is what a perfect tension will look like and what bad tension will look like. So if you look here, I kind of sewed out some samples for you. If you look at this middle, sorry, it's this last line right here. If you look at this last line, that's what a perfect thread should look like on both sides. This is the front side. So if you look, the stitches are nice and even all the way across, and your back side should look the same. Okay, now if your tension is too loose, normally you're gonna see the problem on the back side. You will see it sometimes on the front side. You can see that this is too loose. Your threads should not pick up like that. That means that your tension is too loose and you need to tighten it up. Also on the back side, you'll see when it starts looping up like this, that means that your tension is too loose. Like maybe it's down here or wherever. That just means you need to turn the tension up more and tighten it up. If your threads look like this on the back, then that is too loose. And like this, if they pick up on the front, it's too loose. If your fabric starts puckering, and if you look really, really close, you can kind of see, I don't know if the lighting is good enough to see, you can kind of see a little piece of that bobbin coming up on the top side. That means that your tension is too tight. You can see how this is like starting to get wavy, kind of gathery, and the back side, I mean, it looks okay, but the front side, you can see it just looks really tight. And so that's how you know that your tension is too tight, when it starts to look wavy, or if you can ever see any of the threads going through on the other side, then that means that it's too loose or too tight. See, on this one, you can also see a little bit of the bobbin, or the top thread. You can see little bits of it coming through, and that means that your tension is too loose. So that's how you can determine like too loose, too tight, and adjust accordingly. This again is your perfect stitch, so you want it to look exactly like that. So tension is really, really important when it comes to sewing. And 9 times out of 10, if you have stitches that look like this and something looks wrong, it's either because something is not threaded properly or it's because the tension is off. So always make sure to check those things for troubleshooting if you are having problems with your stitch lengths. So thanks for joining me on here today, and hopefully that answers some of your questions. Just a really quick overview on how to thread your machine and how to get the proper settings and tension. So if you have any questions, just drop me a line in the comments and I will try to get back to you as soon as I see it. And yeah, check out my other tutorials on my YouTube, and there are a lot of different techniques on there, so check it out.